Hello, hello. I hope these videos are getting through to you anyway. Excuse the barking Chihuahua Jack Russell in the background. Today is a very short video, but on the most important thing that I think I can teach you all semester, and it is this. Writing is a process, and there are definite steps in the process. And if you skip a step, it becomes more and more difficult. So let's start with step one. Now, if you've taken a little bit of psychology, you know the difference between your subconscious and your conscious. Your conscious mind is the mind you're aware of your thoughts. Like right now, you're probably thinking, I wonder how much talking she's going to do on this video. But you might also be thinking about what you're going to have for dinner. Those are conscious thoughts. Your subconscious mind is where dreams and ideas come from. And sometimes your subconscious is working on things and you don't even know it, which is why you could have had a really difficult, thorny problem and you couldn't think of an answer, and then you go about your day and suddenly 12 hours later you think, oh, I know exactly how to fix that problem. That was your subconscious doing its job. So as a writer, you need to be able to tap into your subconscious. And I'm going to tell you that the very first step is something that over the last 4.5 years, when I asked students at the end of the semester, what is the most important thing you learned about writing? I think 75% of them all said the same thing, and it's step one, brainstorming. Brainstorming is a way of accessing your subconscious mind to give you ideas, because I think we've all had the experience, me included, of staring at a blank page or computer screen not knowing where to begin. And you know what? No matter how many hours you stare at that screen, it's not going to help you. So this is how you do brainstorming. You grab yourself a piece of paper. Pick something fun. It could be purple construction paper. It could be computer paper. It could be a notebook paper. It doesn't matter. Then pick something that's fun to write with. I kind of like a number 2 pencil myself. Some people like Harold, a purple crayon, or you could use a Sharpie marker. It doesn't matter. But here are the really important hard and fast rules. 1, especially if you're an auditory learner like me, if you like to have music on, that's great, but it can't have lyrics. Because you see, music hits you in the subconscious and the conscious mind. But lyrics force your conscious mind to go, what are those lyrics? Even if you're not aware that that's what you're doing. And you don't want your conscious mind at work when you're brainstorming. You want your subconscious to be free to spew ideas out of your brain and onto the page. So you can listen to music, but without lyrics. Number 2, stop second guessing and correcting yourself. Or in other words, don't write something and then say, that's a stupid idea. That's your conscious mind being a bully. Just dump on the page anything that comes out of your pen or crayon or pencil. Don't judge it. Don't worry about whether or not you spelled something correctly or should you have put a comma there. This is strictly dump your brain on the page time. When are you done? Either when you do physically run out of time, or when you have written yourself into an idea. Somewhere in all my things, I have the brainstorming one of my high school students did maybe 10 years ago. She was supposed to write a how-to paper. The first third of her brainstorming talked about how angry she was at her mother. Then she said, plus I'm angry at my boyfriend, and another third of her page went on to that. Well, none of that was any good for a how-to paper. However, it was important for her to get it out of her subconscious, because that's what her subconscious was involved with at that moment. She had to get her emotions out. Then she said, I don't know what to write about. I guess I'm good at doing hair. Bingo. The next thing you know, she had 3 different ways to style long hair and wrote a really great paper that she likely never would have been able to come up with while she was busy steaming and fuming about her boyfriend and her mom because she was angry at them. That's why when you brainstorm, try very hard not to think, just write. and don't worry about whether it makes any sense or any of it's any good. Honestly and truly, when I brainstorm, I would say maybe 5 to 10% of it is really usable. The rest of it is just my being emotional or whatever, and I just dump it. Okay, so I have a page full of brainstorming and I have my ideas. Now what do? Step 2 is a very important step not to skip, and that is make an outline. For almost any subject in a relatively short paper, and I know you're not going to believe me when I tell you that by short, I mean under 20 pages. Don't worry, you're not going to write a 20-page paper for this class. But let's say you're supposed to write a 5-paragraph essay. For almost everything, it works to have 3 main points, whatever they are. If I wanted to tell you 3 important things you should teach your puppy, clearly one of them is don't bark during the video, but I could come up with 3 different things. Sit, stay, come. There you go. There's my outline. Point 1, point 2, point 3. The first third of my paper after my introduction would be about how and why to teach a puppy to sit. The next third, how and why to teach a puppy to stay. And the last point, how to teach a puppy to come when called. And then you have a couple of sentences for a conclusion. So write down your outline. By the way, if you get used to this, when you do an essay exam, you're going to be so much better off, because the first thing you'll do on a corner of that blue book is jot your 3 main points that you want to say in your answer. So, okay, now you have an outline to follow. The next thing, and notice it's only step 3 out of 6. The next thing, I can move this down, is to write your rough draft. Now, your rough draft should be the same length as you expect your final draft to be. I can't tell you how many students have turned in 2 paragraphs and said, here's my rough draft of my 5-page paper. No, it isn't. The rough draft of a 5-page paper should be about 5 pages. When we say rough, we're only talking about you're going to want to revise and lots of other things we're going to talk about in a second. So your rough draft begins with a hook, a few sentences, your thesis, and then onto your outline. Once you have finished your rough draft, now we get to the ugly part, the part that I most hate, and that is to revise. Revising is not fixing the spelling. Revising is saying, you know what? Paragraph 3 and paragraph 4 should switch places. That makes a lot more sense if I do it that way. Or, gosh, you know what? My 4th paragraph doesn't have a topic sentence. I either need to completely rewrite it, or I just need to add a topic sentence at the beginning. That's revision. It's tearing your paper apart and making it into a jigsaw puzzle and putting it back again. You know, they use cut and paste on a computer because in the olden days when I was first in graduate school, I would literally use scissors and cut pages apart and repaste them or retape them to make sure I had my topics and sentences in the order that made the most sense. I'm gonna have to move this down a little bit. Okay, so that's revision. Now here's the thing. Once you finish revising, you don't go to step 5, you go to another rough draft, and then maybe another revision. And you could go rough draft, revise 50 times. You're probably never going to, but you could. I can't tell you how often I do another rough draft knowing I'm probably going to have to revise some more things. But even if you do it only twice, you're doing a good job. Okay, so let's say you've done your revision, you have a rough draft, you're pretty happy with it. Then the next step is a final draft. I want you to notice that that's only step 5 out of the 6 steps. I'll leave you to be pondering what step 6 might be. Hint, it's not publish. That's part of the final draft. So in your final draft, you're going to clean up everything. You're going to make sure you've indented every paragraph exactly 1 tab. You're going to have someone, oh, this is the best writing advice I've ever learned and I need you to hear me. Have someone else who's a decent reader read you your paper out loud. What, you say? But that would feel weird. Yes, it does feel very weird. But you will hear things that you didn't see, because when you reread the paper silently to yourself, it says what you think you wrote. You need to hear it in someone else's voice and realize, wait a minute, that sentence doesn't make any sense. And then you know what to fix. So that's your final draft. So what on earth would you do next? Here's my paper. I'm about ready to hit submit. Well, the very next thing, also the very last thing, is proofread. Proofread that's the time when you go through and you make sure you've used commas correctly, and you make sure you've capitalized the first letter of every sentence, and you've always capitalized the word I, not this I, this I. That's proofreading. Check for grammar mistakes. Read the paper out loud to yourself again. If you're not sure about a sentence, read it out loud. See how it sounds to you. Once you've proofread, then you may hit that submit button. Now, a quick answer to someone's question. If you have turned in a paper and it needs a lot of revision, in other words, rewriting, changing sentences around, giving more examples, you may revise it for a better grade. If, however, you didn't bother to proofread, don't expect me to be your editor. I'm not going to go through and point out all your run-on sentences or your comma mistakes and then have you just fix what I told you. That doesn't teach you anything, so I won't allow it. You're going to have the grade you get for proofreading. So make sure you do plenty of proofreading yourself. Those are the 6 steps. If you skip a step, you're in trouble. But keep in mind, a couple of them, especially outlining, can be very, very quick. I've outlined a 3 to 5 page paper in 3 or 4 minutes if I had good brainstorming. If you have any questions about these, let me know, but make sure these 6 steps are in your notes. You're going to want them. All right, see you next time.